What is going on, homies and homettes? Thank you for joining us. It's another episode of Beards and Bitcoins. We are a crypto podcast for the man's man. And absolutely, yes, the ladies that love them. Joined with me, as always, is my man, my friend in real life and on the interwebs, BitBoy. You'll know him as Ben. We are now, dude, what is this, like week 2 or 3 into quarantine?
I haven't left my house in 21 days.
With no end in sight. I know we just put a stay and put or whatever it's called until April 14th here in Austin. So that gives me another 3 weeks. So I hope everyone's keeping their sanity. I hope you, Ben, and your family are keeping safe and sane. It's just make it end.
We finally had to order out today. Like we had to. We ordered Domino's. We've been a little sketched. Like we're wiping stuff if it comes in. And I've seen some conflicting stuff about ordering out. And Andy, producer, by the way, sent us something in our Satoshi Droppers chat and a sheet that said like, okay, well, ordering in and doing delivery, like it is pretty safe. So we decided to go ahead and do it today. The wife wasn't really happy about it though, but we did it.
Okay, let me ask you a question. How was the delivery process? Because we've done that as well. We've ordered twice now. We've had one where the guy hung by the door, and then one where the food was at the door before I could get there, and there was no one in sight. It was on the ground. Yeah. What was your delivery experience?
Well, that's what I was expecting. I was expecting that. Now, we've been doing Instacart for all our groceries. Now, we've been stocked up on stuff, but we don't want to have to eat ramen noodles unless we have to, you know? Yeah. So we've been adding on and ordering stuff here and there. And so with Instacart people, they come, they drop it and leave. Like I opened the door for the guy the other day on accident, and he was like, you know, he was scared. He was like, "What?
Don't look at me! Don't look at me!
Don't look at me!" So what happened is today is Domino's showed up, and I looked out the window, and he's just standing there, like right at the door with the pizza. And I opened the window, and I was like, "Hey, put the food on the ground, please. Food on the ground, please." And you know, you got to sign a sheet with Domino's and send them a little tip. I said, place the food on the ground, scribble on the receipt, and give yourself $10. Thank you. Goodbye, sir.
Just walk away, please. Give me my pizza.
And then right in front of him, I like when he was back in his car, I came out with a wipes and started sanitizing it all down. So I'm on keto. I'm on keto, so I can only eat a limited thing. So I just eat the pizza topping. So I scrape all the top off.
Dude, yeah. Why don't you just find a place that does gluten-free pizza?
No, thank you. I don't. No, ugh, that sounds disgusting.
I know, but then you could at least eat the rest of it.
Well, I do thin crust anyways, so it really, honestly, is not that different.
I guess actually gluten-free and keto are two totally different diets.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, like, I don't think that's no carbs. But I've been doing good. I've lost 25 pounds.
Nice, man. Good for you.
Can you tell? Say yes.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. I've lost a few myself, which is very exciting. Like this quarantine life is working out well.
It is. See, a lot of people are talking about the quarantine 30, which is like, you know, like the freshman 30, but the quarantine 30. Yeah. But my wife has an interesting theory, and I tend to agree with her, that actually probably what we'll see people putting on a lot of weight after it's over, because finally everybody can go out and eat all the stuff they've been wanting to eat.
You'll get gluttonous and you'll just start going out. Like that's one of my things. Like I know that you don't drink alcohol. I love to drink. Or I'd love to drink sounds a little strong.
You love to drink.
I do enjoy. And so like my wife and I, like, you know, we're bonding, right? Because it's just the two of us in the house every night. And so like we'll play, like the other night we played Wii bowling for drinks and stuff. So so we're having a good time. But like I really, really, really want to just like tip a bartender for a drink. Like I just want to like go drink in like public and like talk to someone else, not my wife. I love her, but it's just time. It's time.
Well, you guys too. I mean, we both work from home anyways, pretty much. But up until this year, we both had been doing a lot of traveling. I haven't been doing any traveling since January or since December at all. But
lock it up. Lock it up.
It's not that much different from our regular lives because we're home most of the time, but just not being able to go out and do things even if we want to. And my kids' sports are, you know, all done right now, which is really crazy, and things like that. But we got a really packed show for you guys today. I probably should have already said this. We got Mark Moss on today. We're going to be talking about the sickness that shall not be named. And we're going to be talking about the numbers behind it, conspiracies, financial numbers, you know, is it really that bad and things like that. What did you think about the interview, Jay?
I thought it went well. I always love talking to Mark. He's a good friend. Always good to connect with our friends over in California. They've got a different perspective on life. They've got, you know, a different situation going on over there. So it's always good to check in with Mark. He's a cool dude. it was a great interview. I had a good
Yeah,
time.
I wish we probably in the interview could have talked about like more financial stuff. We talked a lot about kind of what's going on like governmentally right now and how that can affect our civil liberties and things like that, which obviously lines up with everything in crypto. But Mark is definitely one of the smartest dudes. I can sit and talk to Mark, and I have before for hours without even looking up. Which like just looking at him talking for
Right.
hours about different stuff. He's definitely an interesting character.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a good conversation. Always good to learn from him as well. Like you said, he's a smart guy.
Yeah.
Super cool and super smart. So thanks for joining us, and I hope you guys enjoy that interview with him a little bit later.
Yeah, and you guys are definitely going to want to tune into the interview because at the end of the interview, Mark is going to tell you exactly what he thinks Bitcoin is going to do. So you're definitely going to want to hear. Yeah.
Get it.
That's it. Get it. Get it.
You got to listen through. Don't fast forward through. You got to listen all the way through.
No fast forwarding. But yeah, let's go ahead. Speaking of fast forwarding, let's go to a forward thinking company, which is Monarch, Monarch token, which that was a much better segue this week than last week. If you guys remember my I'm not even going to say what
it was just a show of bad segues.
A show of bad segues. But let's go ahead and get into this where Beards and Bitcoins, the crypto podcast you guys know and love, is brought to you by Monarch Wallet. Rule your own financial kingdom from the palm of your hand.
That is right, sir. That is right. Let the team at Monarch, they're working hard for you again to bring that one app to give you all the best crypto services right there. Delivering tech is their big thing, not hype.
Absolutely. With the universal decentralized Monarch wallet, you can buy, store, spend, and earn crypto. With Monarch Pay, you can set up and accept recurring crypto payments.
That's right. You can. So check out monarchwallet.com or monarchtoken.io for one of those two websites for more information. Just check it out.
Absolutely. So thank you again to Monarch. So today we're going to be getting into kind of what's going on right now. We're going to give you an overview of what is being approved in the government right now. You guys are going to get some helicopter money. So we're going to be talking about that for Newsbreak. We're going to be talking about $2 trillion coins that the government is talking about minting. Then for Token Time, we're going to be talking about TOMOChain. And then what are we going to talk about for Manspreading, Jay?
We're going to go back to kind of what we were talking about in the intro of the show, where you're ordered some food, right? What food establishments or whatever are you missing the most?
Absolutely. I mean, there's nothing better as a dude than just getting some fast food and just eating junk food, So we're going to talk about, or maybe not fast food. Maybe you like to have a nice steak. We're going to be talking about that in Manspreading. So let's go ahead.
Spoiler alert. Barbecue.
Oh gosh, that's an Austin, Texas boy right there. Let's go ahead and get into the news break. News break.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. You might have seen all over the internet, all over at least social media. Brrrr, brrrr, brrrr. They got the printing machines running. Those greenbacks are printing, baby. The government is ready to inject a lot of cash into the economy. Give it a little bit of liquidity.
Absolutely. So it's a $6 trillion stimulus package. Now, it's not signed yet. Now, it's been agreed to, but it has not been voted on and signed, I do not believe. So we're very close to getting it done. But here's it. You know what? This is something interesting. Let's talk about this for a second. So supposedly every American is going to get if you're not in the 1% or 2% of the, basically if you make over $150,000 or something like $115,000 a year, then you're not going to get anything, I don't think. But if you're up to that level, you're going to get $1,200 per person. If you have kids, you're going to get $500 for each kid. So I'm going to get $3,900. So the question is, the reason why this has not been signed yet is you have some senators like Lindsey Graham saying that, wait a second here, the unemployment part of this package actually encourages people not to work, because when you break it down, it's basically where if you're unemployed, the unemployment benefits that are coming with this $2 trillion, it'll pay you $24 an hour to sit home.
Wow, that's crazy.
So
I had read some other thing that said, and this is something I don't know enough about, and obviously I got to do some more research. But all right, so this is the average American is going to end up getting a bill, and you're not really going to get a bill for this, but it's going to end up costing you like $18,000, right? It's like $18,200, thousand of it is going, to this corporation bailout, and they're giving you, the 1,200. Well, I think I said that wrong,
Yeah, you
but
did, I think.
it's like 18,000. So 18,000 is like what it's going to cost you. It's the 1,200 that you're going to get, but the 16,000 is what you're paying into this, corporate bailouts.
Yeah.
So it's like,
well, but they're also just printing money, so I think that throws everything out. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they're just printing money. So they're talking about minting two $1 trillion coins to pay for all this.
That's crazy.
That's a real thing. That's not a joke. They're really talking about Representative Rashida Tlaib from Michigan suggested that they just take 2 coins and just make money out of the air. And that's, for all intents and purposes, that's really what they're doing. And she's not the first person to suggest this. There was actually, I think, going back in 2010 or 2011 was the first time somebody had floated this idea of like, hey, let's just make $2 trillion coins and it'll, we can disperse that however we want to disperse it. And isn't that exactly what crypto is trying to fight against?
100%. It's like, it doesn't even make sense. I mean, but at the same time, isn't that like, obviously you've got people in the game for crypto and Bitcoin that believe that it's worth money. So there's the exchange, right? You've got buyers and sellers, but at some point, like Bitcoin just like did get created out of thin air, right?
Right.
And it's taken this long to kind of build the value of it. But you can't just value something right out of the get-go at 2 trillion.
Well, the government can. They just did. So I think this is, the effects of inflation, you don't feel immediately. We're not going to feel effects of it. And so that's why now with the government doing, I mean, it's good they do this. I mean, I understand in crypto, we're supposed to be all against the government printing money out of air, but if they don't do this, our entire economy is going to crash. We're going to have people committing suicide left and right because they've lost their businesses, they've lost their jobs. This is worse than the Great Depression. We're going to have unemployment rates higher than the Great Depression. Like, think about that.
Yeah, it's nuts. I saw something like the unemployment request for funding. I think it was in New York City. I think it was New York. They said it was the largest spike in the history of unemployment, like just this week.
Yeah. Well, in the United States, it is like overnight, pretty much it is. And so I think right now the government has to do this. They don't really have a choice. And I think that the effects of inflation are so long-term. So how much, let me ask you, we're about the same age. When you went to high school, did you guys have Coke machines, snack machines?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how much was a 20-ounce soda? I think just now they have 16 ounces. But how much was a 20-ounce soda in your Coke machine?
Dude, it was. I mean, I know that it was like change, right? It was 75 cents, 50 cents. I mean, it was something like that. I think.
I mean, for me, it was $1. Almost everything.
Yeah. Maybe it was $1. Who knows?
So ours were $1, and then we had like I used to love Butterfinger BBs. You remember those? You don't remember Butterfinger BBs?
I remember them, but I don't like Butterfingers.
Oh my gosh, the Butterfinger BBs were the best. Every day I would get a Coke and 2 Butterfinger BBs. It would cost me $2.20, $1 for the Coke and 60 cents a piece for the 2 bags of BBs. And I would eat those in my lit class or whatever. And because, I was lit from an early age, but, but I really enjoyed it. I really like, well, how much is a Coke now? $2.
I think that's crazy. I don't drink soda, so I don't know.
They've literally, just check a soda machine next time you walk by one. They've literally doubled in that short of a time period. In 20 years, basically, they've doubled. And that's the effects of inflation. But see, here's the beautiful thing about it is where we're at with Bitcoin and us wanting to switch over to this Bitcoin scarcity, secure financial system or crypto system, basically, where you can't just print money out of air, is that if our dollar collapses because of this inflation eventually, we're already kind of starting to move over to a different system. So I believe, honestly, we're at the end of the dollar. Is it going to happen tomorrow? No. Is it going to happen in the next 20 years? Yes. I do believe so, in the next 10 to 20 years. So it's almost like this, in the short term, let's do it. Let's print this money. Let's give money out. Let's keep people safe. Let's get people jobs. Let's keep businesses going. But in the long term, this is also bullish for crypto. And where we're trying to take the financial system. So, but
I love the whole idea of them even introducing the digital dollar into this from the get-go. Yeah. I mean, You know, I think that probably goes back to, what was it, last week or 2 weeks ago, when the Steve Mnuchin or whatever his name is, it was the
Mnuchin.
Mnuchin, thank you, the Secretary of the Treasury or whatever, he had named, you know, the guy who was formerly with Coinbase as like
Brian Brooks.
the special currency guy or whatever.
Yeah. Special
Like,
currency guy like that. It's perfect.
whatever, you know. This is, remember, we're not nerds here. We don't actually know the technical names for any of these things.
Not at all. What's a Bitcoin?
What's a Bitcoin? I think that probably has something to do with that, right? I mean, would that not make sense that they introduced this guy who's got just a depth of knowledge of crypto and kind of what's going on in the blockchain world, and said, hey, let's try to make this expeditious to getting people money. That's the way to do it.
And if you guys don't know what Justin's talking about, it's where basically the Democrats tried to slide in a digital dollar in the bill, and it didn't get, that part of the bill didn't get passed. But we're already seeing them talk about a digital dollar. Will it be centralized? Yeah, of course it'll be centralizized. But there is a chance it can be on blockchain, and it will probably come within the next year or two, regardless. So, but let's move on.
Sorry, Ripple Army, it's not your coin.
Speaking of coins, let's check out a token that Justin promised to this community. Let's get into token time.
Token time.
That's right, guys. Today we're going to be talking about TOMOChain. This is an interview episode, so we don't have as much time as usual to talk about a token, but Justin had promised the community that we were going to talk about this. And if you're in the TOMOChain community and you want to tell us more about it, then make sure you guys come over and join our Telegram group, t.me/beardsandbitcoins, and come tell us all about TOMOChain. We would love to learn a little bit more about it.
Talk to us. But we're going to give you kind of the baseline overview, right? So this is about TOMOChain. TOMOChain is a scalable blockchain-powered proof-of-stake voting consensus. It's used commercially by companies globally. Their mission is to accelerate the onboarding of millions of users by empowering today's applications with technology that masks the friction of blockchain, all while retaining its underlying benefits. So that's pretty cool. Their technology is DeFi focused. Products include fast and near zero fees, 2,000 transfer TPS, 2-second blockchain, about zero gas fees price wise, and it is EVM compatible. It's an array of original features and protocols designed to support speed, privacy, usability, and liquidity. All of those needs in one platform. That's a little overview of TOMOChain.
Sounds great. I like it. Let me tell you the number one thing I love about TOMOChain. I mean, I've been sitting over here waiting on this for about, I mean, it took you about a minute to explain it. So I've just been like ready to go. The number one thing I like about TOMOChain is their logo is very similar to the TikTok logo. So TOMOChain, you guys are great. Same colors, everything. It's fantastic.
It's interesting.
You guys know I love TikTok. So TOMOChain, it looks like they have launched their own main net because it is a coin. It is not, an ERC20 or a token. So, I mean, that's good. This is a scalable blockchain. I think it said they can do like 2,000 transactions per second. Looking at the chart, well, just so you guys know some of the coin market cap numbers on it, right now it's ranked around number 137. And I'm a big fan of coins in the 100s. I think a lot of those coins in the 100s, like Bosagora is one that I really like. There's some other ones in that 100 to 150 range that I think could be kind of the next ones up. So maybe this could be, one that could maybe move up towards the top 75, maybe the top 100, over the next couple of weeks. But looking at the chart, it launched, it looks like in March of 2018. So it's been around for a while, about a year and a half. Well, that'd be 2 years. Wow, time moves by fast. But it was very volatile. But the volume on it has really picked up since November of last year. So it's on a little bit of a dip right now, like everything is, but it looked like it was on the way up until Bitcoin kind of hit a wall. But what do you think about the long-term prospects of this coin?
I like it, man. And looking at some of the details of it, one of the things that I do like is that there's only 100 million in the total supply. I think I'm kind of getting stuck at looking at projects that have, 100 billion tokens. Like, I mean, okay, like I think that's maybe greed on the founder's behalf or whatever. I mean, break it down by decimals, have fractional units of your coin if that's what you want to do. But, to have 100 million or less, I think that's a good number.
Yeah, I like 9-digit coins. 10, 11-digit coins, 12-digit coins is too much when you're in the billions. I think Ripple is, I think, 84 billion, I think.
It's just too many. It's too many in my opinion.
Too many coins. It's too many Tomos. So if you're in the Tomo community, make sure that you guys hit us up. Let us know more about it. Come join our Telegram and, teach Justin more about it because he needs to know more about things.
Educate me, homies.
Educate him. So let's go ahead, guys. We got to jump. We got to jump here. Let's go ahead and jump over to everybody's favorite segment. Manspreading.
All right, fellas. You got that rumble in your tummy? You hungry for your favorite chicken wings? Maybe it's that burger at that joint down the street. Regardless of what it is, I'm hungry. I know you are. Ben, you got to be hungry too. Although you got your pizza delivered today.
I did. But I ate it and it's gone. I mean, I eat those pizza toppings in one sitting. So,
well, today on Manspreading, we are going to be talking about what food it is that you are missing the most during this quarantine life and chill, if you could call it chill. I'm sick of it.
Well, for me, I'm really, I've been on keto anyways, so it's been a little bit more miserable since I can't go out and eat wings or whatever. But I would say that probably the thing that I miss the most is just going out and eating wings at restaurants with my family. Like after church on Sundays, Buffalo Wild Wings or not Buffalo Wild Wings, Buffalo's Cafe. I don't know if you guys have those there. I think they're everywhere. But Buffalo's Cafe has kids eat free on Sundays. So we'd like to go after church, go eat wings. And then, if we were out at one of my kids' soccer games out of town, we go to Taco Mac or whatever. And, in my family, we have a saying. Boneless wings are not allowed in this house. This family does not eat boneless wings. We only eat real wings. So I miss saying that. I haven't been able to say that in a while. So I would say like combination of Buffalo's, Taco Mac, anywhere that's got good wings, being able to go sit down as a family. And that's something I miss. We would go out a couple times a week and eat. And, it's weird because I would get frustrated with my kids sometimes when they'd be loud and talking, just being kids in public. And now I'm just like, I miss those times,
Definitely. I agree with you. For me, it's barbecue, man. I miss barbecue, going to the places where you could get a brisket or a rack of ribs that have been smoked for 16, 20 hours. I need to do it at home, but I don't have the supplies at this particular moment. So that's what I'm missing is my barbecue.
I mean, I miss some Austin barbecue too. I miss being out there and having some of that.
Come on down. Flights are cheap. Come on down.
I'm probably not because I'm not getting on an airplane right now. It's crazy. Airplanes are flying with like 6 people on them now.
Dude, but couldn't you just wear a hazmat suit and a mask and be totally fine?
Yeah, that's a good point. Maybe to get some brisket, I should do that.
Come on down.
I have to go get one of those buffalo legs. What was that?
The bison rib.
The bison rib. That's what it was. The bison rib. So good.
So good, Jinx.
Dude, I'm going to go, next time I'm out there, we're going to go tear up every barbecue restaurant again, like we did last time I was out there.
That's what's up.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big fan of barbecue. So let's put a poll up. Let's find out what people are missing the most. Maybe we'll do barbecue, pizza, wings, maybe hamburgers, maybe that. We'll see what people are missing the most out there right now, or maybe we'll put up some specific restaurants. I don't know, but we're going to put up a poll, and you guys please go and check out the poll. So we got
on the poll.
Yeah, vote on the poll. We got to move on to our interview with Mark Moss. I do want to say before we get into the interview, Mark and I talked about some numbers for flu season, and I got totally confused. I was saying 360,000 people had it last year. I said about 38,000 people died last year, which is true, or the 2018-2019 flu season. But there were about 35 to 45 million people who had it, who had the flu during the last flu season. About 36 to 38,000 people died. So you guys keep that in mind when you're watching. I got a little confused on the numbers. But I hope you guys enjoy this interview, and we'll see you guys later.
See you.
Hey, guys, we are joined today by a good friend of the show, somebody I know very personally, spent a lot of time with. He's one of the smartest dudes I've ever met. We're joined by Mark Moss today. How are you doing, Mark?
I am doing awesome out here in Southern California, hunkered down for the quarantine. But anyway, doing great. Always fun to join you guys for a conversation.
Yeah, definitely. Today we're excited to talk about some continuation of some things we've been talking about on the podcast the last few weeks. As you guys know, the disease is just over everything right now. Somebody made a comment that was like, crypto Twitter has been totally taken over by the virus. And I'm like, well, literally everything has. I mean, what part of your life, hasn't it touched? So
the world has basically come to a standstill right now.
It's crazy.
Yep.
It has. So Mark and I were talking on Twitter, and we were talking about, I was talking about some conspiracies and how I'm not really into those conspiracies that much. I pretty much accept at face value a lot of stuff that's going on. I mean, obviously, I understand there are some things going on behind the scene. But we want to bring Mark on and talk about that stuff, and then talk about how it's affecting our financial system. Because we just had, they're talking about minting $2 trillion coins. They just did, $6 trillion, I think, or $8 trillion. $6
trillion,
yeah, $6 trillion surplus package stimulus and things like that. So they're announcing it right now all in the background here. But I want to know, what are your thoughts in general about this? How do you think that this crisis we're facing is affecting our financial system?
Well, no doubt that it's affecting our financial system in a bunch of ways. I mean, obviously the entire economy is shut down. So, meaning like hitting a brick wall at 100 miles an hour, from 100 to 0 in 0 seconds. Just to even like maybe try to get a glimpse of how big this is. Think about the restaurant industry. 7 to 8 million jobs gone in the blink of an eye. Just that alone, that's $255 billion of revenue. But it's not just the people that work in the restaurants. What about the people that deliver the food to the restaurants, the farmers that are growing the food? What about the guys that clean the uniforms? So it's like, it goes deeper and deeper and deeper. And that's just like one tiny segment. So at the same time, we're seeing complete destruction of the economy. And at the same time, we're seeing a destruction of our financial system, because what the Fed's doing, they just announced the other day, right? Fed QE Unlimited, basically unlimited money supply. They've come out to say, the BRRRR.
There it is.
Exactly. And they've already pledged now, as of today, $6 trillion to fix this. I think it's going to be, I think it'll probably be 30 trillion by the time we're done in 24 months.
Which is more than our GDP.
Well, yeah, it's way more than our GDP. If you look at like in 2008, we went from 880 million, and it had been pretty flatlined, but 880 million on the Fed's balance sheet went to 2.2. But the problem is they keep saying, hey, we'll worry about this after we get through. That's what they're saying right now. They said the same thing in 2008, but the 2.2 never went down. As a matter of fact, the 2.2 grew to 4.4 previous to this. So instead of like, okay, after we recover, let's get that money back out. And then everybody's trying to tell you, oh no, the Fed got all that money back. They did? Well, then why did their balance sheet go from 8.8880 to 2.2 and then 4.4? And so anyway, if you look at the result in 2008, from 880 to 2.2, that puts us from 4.4 to 10 trillion. But they just announced 6. So 6 plus 4, that's 10. Boom. Just instantly, overnight.
So how do you think, I really want to get down to the heart of this here, okay? I really want to get...
Well, there was a specific tweet that you made that I commented on.
Yeah.
Do you remember that tweet?
Do you remember the tweet?
I remember the tweet.
Yeah, I don't remember which one it was. I've said so much.
So you said, okay, so they're really using this to take our guns and take our cash and whatever, exert control over us.
So the tweet was, now I remember the one you're talking about. It was, okay, so if they don't exert permanent martial law on us, and if they don't come try to take our guns, and our own country basically doesn't try to take us over, then can we all agree that those are just crazy conspiracy theories, and that's never going to happen? That was basically what it was. Yeah.
And I said, aren't you paying attention? Because they are doing that right now. So, and I'm not saying this is a conspiracy, but the saying is, and I forget who said it now, but never let a good crisis go to waste, right? So every time there's a crisis, like 2000, like 9/11, for example, that was the day supposedly we went to go fight for our freedom. Well, that was the day we lost more freedom than any other day in history, with the Patriot Act and so forth. And, every time we see a crisis, we see the same thing. So you said, if they don't do that, well, they already are, right? So we saw, gun checks went up by 300%. Well, they shut it all down. So now you can't get guns right now. You can't buy ammo right now. They are taking the cash, and not just the U.S. This is a global thing, right? So China's already taken $600 billion of cash off the street. The U.S. is starting to do it, where now businesses and so forth aren't accepting cash. Now we see just yesterday, the FDIC comes out, spokesperson, everything's safe. leave your money in the bank, right? So we see all these things. So you said, if they don't do it, and I said, but they are right before our very eyes.
Well, and this is, I think this is the fundamental disagreement here, which is, I don't feel like that. And I said this way before we got to a point where states were even getting shut down. I said this even back as far as when the first cases started showing up, because I saw where this was coming. That's why I have a whole nother channel where I talk about this every day. The thing is in my opinion, this is not an encroachment on our freedom. And everyone's interpreting it like that. Like, this is some encroachment on our freedom. Like, they're just telling us we can't go out and do stuff. Like, we all see the craziness that's happening in New York City. They have 30,000 cases. They have more. They're going to end up with more cases in New York City than they had in Wuhan, China, by the time this is over. Well, the reported numbers. Obviously, I don't believe any of the numbers from China. But the point is,
I don't think anyone does.
Okay, let's separate the first issue from the second issue. You want to dive into the data and the numbers? That's a whole different deal.
Yeah.
But you can talk about the encroachment on the freedom.
Yeah, I don't feel like it's an encroachment. And I said this even back then. The problem is that Americans, we have a problem taking suggestions. And so it's been suggested to us for weeks that the best thing for us to do is to stay home, social distance. But you have people that are just like, I just don't believe, oh, this is like SARS, or this is like swine flu. Like, oh, it's the same as every other thing we've ever seen before. And I understand why people think that, because we've seen so many, I guess you call them false flags or whatever before, scares where it didn't, come to fruition. But this one has. And if everybody
the thing is, though, is we also have history
at this point.
We also have history, though, right? So like every time, like 9/11, they put these emergency powers into place, these emergency laws, and they've never once gone back and repealed them. Yeah. Ever. So, and not only that, right now, I'm sure you've seen, right? They're trying to push through this new legislation. What is it? The
Earn It.
Huh? Oh, the Earn It.
Yeah,
exactly. Like, they're trying to slide that through. You saw Nancy Pelosi tried to stick all that stuff in that bill, trying to slip all that through. And they're calling it like emergency powers, but they'll never repeal that. I mean, you saw the other day, they said, you report on this all the time. I'm sure you saw it, right? They want to be able to detain U.S. citizens with no cause for an unlimited amount of time.
Yeah.
Like, once those things go into place.
But once again, though, this is something that, in my opinion, is really overblown, because, like, yes, and I spoke out against it. I said we don't need this, but the problem is there's no courts. There's no courts right now, and that's what the issue is. It's not that they're saying like, oh, we just need to detain people and throw them in jail, and we don't have courts. My court I'm at isn't functioning at all. There's no process right now. That's why in Dallas, they just had a report on the news yesterday that said, and they had the same thing in Philadelphia, where they're not even investigating car break-ins. They're trying to lower the amount.
For Christ's sake, I think they let out in New Jersey or something. They let out like 1,700 inmates. They just let them out of jail.
Because there's no
one
court,
of them already like tied up some woman and held her at knife point and all that.
I mean, like, come on, like, whose stupid dipshit decision was that?
Well, but once again, I'm going to say it's not, because most of those people were, if you really pay attention to what exactly the people they're letting out, they're non-violent offenders who are awaiting trial. So these are people that they just got arrested, and they've deemed that these people are like, they're either small drug charges, or they're either, basically it's to get around the exact thing we're talking about, which is somebody having to sit in jail for an extended amount of time because the courts are shut down. Yeah. So I think the danger is, and I've said this many times, I accept pretty much what's going on right now at face value. I think that it started in China. I think it either started from an animal biting a person at their version of the CDC, because there was a report out of China very early on. That's what happened, that completely disappeared. Or it's the story that we've been told. A bat pooped, a pangolin ate it. The pangolin got sold at a wet market, and that person went home and ate it raw or not cooked and got it. It's either one of those two things, in my opinion. The crisis itself is very bad right now. We all understand where it's at.
How bad is it? Tell me how bad it is.
Well, in New York City, they have 30,000 people in the hospital.
Okay, so what does that mean? 30,000. How many people get infected with the flu?
Okay,
infected, like not die. How many people get infected?
About 350,000 every year across the United States.
6 million
in the world.
Yeah,
but not in the United States.
Yeah, not okay. So how many?
In the United States, it's about 350,000, and there are approximately 38. Maybe it's more than that. It's 38,000 people died last year from the flu for sure. That would be a 1%. 1%. That would be 10%. whatever it is. I don't know the number.
You don't know. You don't know. Listen.
The number for how many people died last year, I'm positive, is 38,000. We've had as many as 50,000 over the last few years.
Here's my stance on it. And I told you before we started the show, like everybody can form their own assumptions and their own opinions, but we have to look at the data, right? And so when you look at the data, so first of all, there's this article that just came out by a doctor of epidemiology. He's a PhD, blah, 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 whatever university he's at. And he just says, look, we don't have the data.
Yeah.
We're fighting something that we have no data. We have no idea what it is. There was a study that just was released from Oxford University, credible source, Oxford University. They said over half of the UK have already gotten it. 1.3 million people have already gotten it. It's already blown through. That's what Oxford University just said. I live in Southern California. You probably saw my tweet the other day. Yeah. I put out that I believe my family already got this about 2 weeks ago. My daughter had 104-degree fever, every single symptom, including the GI issues. I got the flu headache, the eyeballs. I live right out of LA. We have a direct flight from Wuhan to LA, right? Think of the timetable, right? Like it happened in December there. Here it's February, and the flu ran through Southern California hard. Like, wow, where'd this come from? Well, now we kind of know. And I've been doing extensive boots on the ground research, just talking to as many people as I can. But Oxford University came out with a study. Like, I think we've already seen it. And then the best data that we have that still isn't that good was that Princess Diamond cruise line. And there were 700 passengers that were locked on the ship, quarantined, and they said it passes through air, all that, right? Okay, 700. Well, who goes on cruises? Old people. 700 people on old cruises, and they had a death rate of 1.125. Seven people died out of the 700 people there. Now, because that data sample is so small, you can't draw conclusions off 700 people. No, of course you need like 700,000 people to get. Yeah. So, but based off of that data of old people that were completely locked in, breathing the same recirculated air, it was somewhere between 0.025 to 0.06 death rate. So that's fact. That's just data. And you can draw your own conclusions, but I know my sister's an ER doctor in San Diego. They're not dealing with it. In California, we're at 30% occupancy. My friend's brother is a respiratory therapist in Washington. They're not being overdated. I've been running polls. So anyway, that's the fact. And I know that it could get really bad. And I know that we could have an overwhelming. And I know that it could be all these things, but the data is not there.
The one thing that I like and I heard is that someone's coming out with a test, right? And it will test you to let you know if you've like had it, right? If you've been exposed to it, because then you'll know, hey, look, if I've got it, like I showed no symptoms, I never really got all that sick, like it didn't affect me as much as it affects some of the people with certain conditions. Then you can basically go about your life, because like same thing, like don't get a flu shot, like a normal flu shot. I don't get sick, and if I do get the flu ever, the normal one, like I'm down for maybe a day and then that's it.
Yeah.
Right. So like I have a strong immune system, so maybe it works with this as well. And so you could at that point just know like, all right, I can go back about my life because this isn't something that affects me like it affects other people.
Yeah. The one point I just want to make real quick before you take over, Ben, is so what I've learned from reading this doctor, reading what Oxford just put out, was that they said looking at the infection rate's the wrong number to look at. We obviously have done a horrible job of testing people. Yeah. Now that we're testing people, of course, the infection rate is going through the friggin' roof. The death rate is the number to look at. And as we get more people infected, the death rate is dropping less and less and less and less. And now it's still a little higher than the flu, but it's lower than any of the other viruses that we've had over the last 2 decades. So we're at about 0.5 now. So the more infections we get, 30,000, 50,000, 200,000, bring them on. Bring them on. I want 1 million infections, because then it makes that death rate look so minuscule.
But here's the problem with that way of thinking, though, is because it's kind of like saying when you mentioned, you said, oh, well, how many people get the flu? Well, if McDonald's, I saw this tweet, and I thought this put it beautifully. McDonald's sells 2 billion hamburgers a month or a year, 2 billion hamburgers a year. If I go to my local McDonald's and I order 50 million, they should be able to give it to me, right? Well, of course not. Of course not.
I hear that, but I hear that, but the data doesn't show it. The data doesn't show. We've had it now. It's been out for 4 months now, and so far we haven't seen that rapid rise, and our systems aren't being overwhelmed. So,
well, we have. I mean, how can you say we haven't seen the rapid rise in New York City? It's insane. And we also have to keep in mind we're 7 days behind at any given moment what's actually happening, because it takes 7 days before people really start showing symptoms. So we're seeing this huge rise in New York, and now at the same time, though, there's way more people there that have it right now that haven't even started showing the symptoms yet. Now, starting on Saturday or Sunday, when they've had 7 days of lockdown, that may change and that may start to decline. But the fact is in a lot of ways, in my opinion, I feel like New York is the future for a lot of cities in America. Maybe it won't be, but I feel like looking at what is happening there, because of the apathy that people have towards this, like it's not a big deal. Now, that death rate is heavily affected by the amount of treatment that these people can get. So in Italy, they're so overran, like it's so crazy what's happening there. Yes, they do have the oldest population. We know that. Yes, a lot of people.
Wait, they're so overran that 800 people have died.
In Italy?
How many people died in Italy?
About 6,000.
Is it that high?
Yeah, it's that high. It's going crazy. And Spain is right behind it. I'll look it up right now.
Okay.
What we should also look at is the number of people that die on a daily basis that don't die of this.
Well,
like,
and
what if you got like, okay, in this particular,
no, but that's a false comparison though, because I mean that rate is kind of already built in. Like we know how many people die of all kinds of different things.
No, I understand that, but
that's what that study from Oxford.
It would put context to the whole thing.
That's what that study from Oxford said exactly, right? Which is like, look, we're not even testing people until they have such severe symptoms they come to the hospital.
Okay, so Italy has had 7,500 people die. Spain's had 3,700. But the problem is their death rate. Italy's death rate is about 10%, and it looks like Spain's is about 6%. Now, but you have outliers though. You have Germany, where they have almost as many cases as Spain, and they only have 206 deaths. It's really bizarre. But the whole point is that death rate is affected by how many people are in that hospital. So in Italy, they have so many people that they're saying that you can't even have a funeral there. Funerals are collapsed over there. If your grandma dies in Italy right now, there's no funeral. They just take her and put her somewhere.
Now, do we know the level
it's getting there and in Spain, in both places?
Do we know the level of healthcare in all of these countries that we're trying to compare?
They're first world countries. They're G8 countries.
Well, yeah. I mean, you'd say that.
They're top of the line. I mean, they're in terms of the world, these European countries that we're dealing with, Spain, Germany, the UK, I mean, these are three of the most advanced countries in the whole world outside of us, China, and Japan, probably. Yeah. So we're not.
I just think so. As a fundamental investor, I've never tried to guess the market. I always look at probabilities. Like, this could happen. What's the probability this happens? If this happens, this probability. And what are the factors that would happen for either one of those to become true? It's kind of like what the CIA does to like map out their risk, their threats. So we can look at the data and go, maybe the whole world friggin' dies. Yeah. Or maybe in a couple of weeks it blows over. We can look at the data and interpret it however we want. But the data is the data. And that's the only point that I want to bring in. But I think that now, as we're getting more testing, that we're starting to see the data differently. Like as Oxford just put out the study that says half of UK already got it. It's already blown through. And
I'll have to look up that article. That sounds crazy.
If we had been doing testing in the US, we probably would have seen that we've actually had, 1 million people infected or whatever.
I would highly suspect that we have.
But here's a question that I think is a bigger question, and the media wants to sensationalize everything, and that's where I try to like slow the panic down, right, and look at the data. And so Governor Cuomo was on the news saying yesterday, like, that's my mother, that's your mother. Yeah. One death is not acceptable, right? So I'm just curious what you think about this, about the precedent that's being set moving forward. So what I mean by that is, in 2018. We had 80,000 people die of the flu. 80,000 people die of the flu. It's not typical. That was a heavy year. I give you that. Typical is what, 20, 30,000, right? Yeah. My point is he's saying one death isn't acceptable. So, we had the H1N1, the swine flu, right? And however many people died of that. We didn't just not shut the country down. That was never even an option. That never even came to the talk, right? And now what Como was saying in his press release yesterday, not one death is acceptable. My mother, your mother, we will do anything. And he said today, you guys are screwed up. You're giving me $2 trillion. I need enough. I need more, because one death isn't acceptable. So what is the precedent moving forward, where we typically have 20 to 30,000 people die a year of the flu, 80,000 in 2018? Every time flu season comes, do we shut the country down because one death isn't acceptable?
Well, I think what we're going to see is this. I think either this is going to just totally disappear and go away, and it's not going to be a big deal. And we're going to look and we're going to say, you know what? Look, we had, 20,000 people die of this, and we have this many people die of the flu, and it really wasn't that big deal. Or either it's going to turn into, an Italy situation where it shuts our whole country down for a long time. And then we're going to look back and we're going to say, man, I wish we would have done more. So just like you said, we don't have the data. I think the issue is, some people are more on the side of, let's just play it out and see what happens, and then make decisions from that. And then other people are like, we see how bad it could get, so let's try not to let it get that far. And I think that's the major difference between people who have like my mindset and people that have your mindset, and then a lot of people I see. Whereas I'm more worried about, I'm worried about if the hospitals get overran here like they get overran in Italy. I mean, they've already had to cancel elective surgeries in a lot of places. What happens if, we're not going anywhere, but hypothetically, what happens if my wife gets in a car accident and now we got to go to the local hospital that's totally overran? They're already saying that for labor and delivery, they're not even letting husbands in. That's how packed these hospitals are in New York right now. So you can't get the best care that our healthcare system's used to getting. And so that's kind of the preventative thing. That's just the difference between the way that I think most people are looking at this. So, yeah. But I think that what do you think about, do you believe that this just started some natural way, or are you one of those people that think that like that event 201 was a precursor to this? Or do you feel like there's anything behind maybe some ulterior motives on how this started?
I think, I try not to put the conspiracy hat on, but couple things. One, first of all, they've made us friggin' this way, dude. They've made us into conspiracy theorists. There is a lot of shady stuff that they do all the time, and they've made us that way. Two, we grew up on detective shows and murder mysteries, right? Like, we understand motive. Like, why would they do that? Motive, right? So we understand those things. I think it was very, very interesting. A couple of dots, and draw this as it may. And I don't try to spend a lot of time on this because it doesn't mean anything to me one way or another. But there was a Harvard professor that got arrested boarding a plane with Chinese nationals carrying biosamples, and he was getting paid. He got paid over $2 million. Who was he getting paid from? The Wuhan Institute of Technology. Then, now it's been several weeks, a month maybe, President Xi had a press conference in China and said, we're changing all our security protocols of our level 1 biofacilities in China. Well, why would they do that? Because there was a breach in the security. Well, how many Bio 1 level facilities are there? 1. Where is it? Wuhan. So those are a couple interesting dots to draw for sure. Like you said, we pretty much know it started in Wuhan, in a meat market. Now, was it done intentionally? Was it done on accident? I don't know. What happens, and this is what came out when Xi did this announcement, was that what happens is, China's so poor and people do unscrupulous things when they're poor like that. And what happens is the doctors sell the lab animals. And one doctor's in prison. He made over $1 million selling lab animals after they do the tests on them, and they sell them. And where do they sell them to? To the markets, and people eat them. So after they do the test, they put them in the markets and eat them. And so where did this come from? It came from Wuhan in a food market.
Yeah.
Oh, so those are interesting dots to connect.
Well, one other thing I would connect to that is one thing that I thought was, I think there's a lot of really interesting stuff that I've been reading. I don't know what it all means or how it all ties together. But one interesting thing is, now they said the first case was November 17th. Before they said it was in December. Well, on December 1st, China passed a new vaccine law. And that law basically made it to where now they can fast track vaccines without having to go through this long trial process that they had before. So they literally had just changed that law that's allowing them to speed up a vaccine right now, 2 weeks after the first case. So that's a little weird too.
Yeah, and they gave all those kids that medicine, and so many of them died and had these crazy adverse effects. It was really, really sad what happened over there. They don't care about their people, so it's a shame to see that. But, other interesting facts, and again, they're just facts, and they could just be coincidences. Eventually, you have so many, though, you start to wonder, right? But obviously Bill Gates having the tests before, and yeah, maybe it was just a test, and maybe it was just coincident that happened to be the time, and maybe he just happened to quit his job to go run this whole thing. And Agenda 21's been out there for a long time. We know George Soros and those guys are behind it. So we know all that data. It's pretty factual. Whether you want to connect it all, I don't know. I don't spend a lot of time thinking about that because it doesn't really change my life one way or another. I learned something a long time ago that people say knowledge is power. Only actionable knowledge is power. Yeah. Sometimes ignorance is bliss.
No, I feel that. Yeah. I said that. I said that on my channel. I did a video about conspiracy theories the other day and talked about Event 201. And at the end, I was like, basically, I just think it's all a coincidence, and people just killed me for it in the comments. Like, people hate that. And the people that believe in conspiracy theories, they're so, and this is really the little scab I've been picking at. I've been picking at this on Twitter. I've been picking at it on YouTube. They're impossible to debate with. You cannot debate with a person who believes in conspiracy theories. It's just like debating religion with someone who's, a very faithful follower of, of whatever religion. It doesn't matter what you talk about or how you say it. They're going to twist it in a way that they're right and you're wrong. And that's if it's a giant secret society, then it's this whole thing going on underground you can't see. And they're like, you just don't know what's going on. But then if it's like Event 201 and you're like, well, obviously this was out in public, so this can't be a conspiracy. Then they're like, see, that's exactly what they want you to think. So you just can't win.
Yeah. Yeah, we do know that, they've had this initiative. I don't know if that's what you're calling the 201, like the Healthy Families 2020 initiative, right? That's been for a decade, right? Obama put that into practice with putting all our records digitally online. That coincides with the date, obviously 2020 is kicking in now. It's for 10 years they've been building this. It coincides with the new travel IDs that we have to have, right? So now you can't fly without the new ID, which links to your medical records so they can see if you're vaccinated before you fly. These are facts. These aren't debatable. Why would they want to do that? Why do they want to see every single aspect of your life and tell you what you can and cannot do? Now, you can draw your own conclusion as to why they want to do that, but the facts are not debatable, I don't think.
So let's wrap it up with this.
We could go forever. We
can't go forever. And we didn't even really talk about Harley. Well, I guess we did talk about what I want to talk about. But one last point, and then I'm going to ask you one last question. My last point I would make is I do agree that we have to be careful what happens from here. I do believe that. Because like you said about, don't ever let a good opportunity go to waste, a good crisis go to waste.
Yeah.
I believe that.
It was Rahm Emanuel said that.
Oh,
that's what I looked online. He's like the worst.
Oh, gosh.
He's like, our news used to call him the thug mayor of Chicago.
Yeah, he's crazy. But I do believe that. However, I also do believe that I think we learned from the Patriot Act. I think most people in America know what the Patriot Act is and understood that they slipped it in after 9/11 and understood it was a bad thing. So I like to think.
But it didn't get repealed, and they actually just redoubled down on it. They just signed it, extended it.
I understand, but we all cheered it on when it went into effect. Most people did. Most people were like, we got attacked. We got to get these guys. We'll do whatever. Let's go to war. Let's put this act in. Let's stop the terrorism. And so we cheered it. I think this time what you're going to see is, yes, we're all for like push money through, get money to people. But other things that come after this, like rules about lockdowns or quarantines or any of that stuff, I think we're going to pay attention more than we were paying back then. And I think that will help us not to go down that same path. But the last question I wanted to ask you is, what's going to happen to Bitcoin? This is a Bitcoin podcast. What's going to happen?
Yeah, for sure. So I think I think Bitcoin and gold are on the same trajectory because we call Bitcoin digital gold. The reason why is because the reasons why you would buy gold are usually the same reasons why you'd want to buy Bitcoin. Obviously, there's little nuances there, but we get them to opt out of the current financial system. It's the only way to get your money out of the system, right? So there's a lot of parallels there, and we know that even like in 2008, the stocks and gold crashed at the same time. However, stocks crashed 53%, gold crashed 25%. well, not half as bad. The second thing is that gold rebounded in 7 months. It took stocks almost 6 years to rebound. And so we've seen the same thing. Gold crashed and it's rebounding. Bitcoin crashed and it's rebounding. So I think it's going to be an amazing opportunity to see the government on one side say endless money printing. That's what they said, unlimited money printing. And at the same, so inflation, we're seeing Bitcoin cut in half and see deflation at the exact same time. It's going to be very interesting. In addition, we're seeing the government. So everything the government's doing to combat this, printing the money, squeezing capital controls, all those things are pushing more people to, they're kind of doing marketing for Bitcoin, if you will. So I think it's, I think the outlook for Bitcoin has never been brighter. Do I think it's ready to be the store of value for the world right now today? No, I think it's a little bit too young. Gold's been around for 5,000 years. Central banks are buying it. Bitcoin's not. But it doesn't need to take over the world right now. It just keeps growing and keeps doing what it's doing. So I'm super bullish.
Awesome.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, this was like its first test, right? This is like the first time Bitcoin's been tested. 2008 was the last time. Bitcoin came out right after. That was kind of the remedy to it. So it was his first test. So it's got a long life to live.
Are you bullish on it?
Always.
Yeah.
BTFD, baby.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, initially I was pretty scared by what happened, 2 weeks ago on Thursday. 2 weeks ago from, pretty much when we were recording this. And it really scared me because of how much further it dropped than everything else. And you weren't seeing the stock market fall that bad. I mean, you're seeing the stock market fall like 6%, but now what we're seeing is like up until the rebound the last few days, Delta was down 60%. You got things that are more volatile than Bitcoin. And I think that it was a combination of a pent-up dump that needed to come. Obviously, the stock market dumping was part of it and people trying to get liquidity. And then I also think I heard there were some whales that were trying to, get offload some Bitcoin at the same time. So I think that initial drop was way worse than it should have been naturally. And I think what we've seen since is Bitcoin has held its value pretty good. And I mean, the fact that we're right now right back up very close to $7,000, I mean, none of us would have thought we'd be here this quick, when it dropped down to 3,600. So overall, I like where we're going. I like where we're going with the halving. I think if we can get back to 8K by the halving, I think we're still on track for everything.
A couple things I'd say about that. Hunter Horsley on Twitter put out a thing basically saying how, when you look at different investments, you have to look at their volatility ratings, their risk and return profiles, and then you weight them in your portfolio. And so when you look at Bitcoin on an adjusted basis and volatility and risk return profiles, when you adjust it for that, market cap size, et cetera, it actually was the same as the stock market dropping 10%. So it's actually on an adjusted basis, when you weigh it out, it's just as volatile as what the stock market is. The other thing that's super interesting is that the stock market, in order to keep it from only crashing 33% and not 80%, and now some did crash 80, 90%, but the overall market crashed 35%. In order to do that, it triggered like 6 or 7 circuit breakers.
That was crazy. Craziness.
It required the plunge protection team, and it required $2 trillion to keep it from going more than 35%. Bitcoin dropped 30%, and it don't have no circuit breakers. It didn't have a bailout.
Yeah, that's great
powerful.
Point.
And what happened with Bitcoin crashing that fast, that far, was all the short bots piled up, and then BitMEX crashed, the market seized, and it was too many people on the wrong side of the automated trade, but that's why it bounced back so quick. So anyway, all those things make me even more bullish.
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's like somebody made a tweet where they said, a hedgeable asset or something like that is, it's not crisis proof. I think it was the Winklevoss twins. They said like something that you can hedge value with. I mean, it's still in a crash, in an economy crash, it's still going to go down. There's nothing that will be, absolutely recession proof or, it will be immune to drops. And so I think that this could be the moment Bitcoin's waiting for. I think that could have been the capitulation moment, for a lot of people. I mean, I know there's a lot of YouTubers and people I follow that haven't even been back since that drop. But a lot of us, we're going to be here no matter what, and we're going to talk about this no matter what. And it was a good conversation today. Enjoyed having you on, Mark. It would have been nice to talk a little more crypto, But I just think what's going on in the world right now is more fascinating than what's going on in our little space. So I think these are important conversations.
It's the elephant in the room. It dominates all the conversations. I would just end this with saying to all those people that are waiting to buy the dip and they're waiting to call the bottom, you have to understand just how markets work, right? Markets stop going up when there's no more buyers. They stop going down when there's no more sellers. And as long as our conversations keep getting dominated by this, we haven't found the bottom yet. So once this gets out of our vocabulary, we stop talking about this, that's when we'll find the bottom of the market and we'll start to come back up again.
Ooh, wise words. Thank you, sir.
All right. And we'll have some links down below where you guys can go follow Mark. Make sure you guys go follow him on Twitter and follow him on YouTube, Mark Moss. So thank you so much, Mark, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks so much, guys.